Hey, welcome everybody. It's another episode of Dr. Homebrew. And here we are. We are going to be talking homebrew, specifically competition homebrewing. And I know this is sort of like upper echelon stuff, and we don't really talk too much about it because we don't know much about it other than like the judging side of things. But we're actually going to be talking to a couple of people who know a little bit about the competition side, and then we're going to get some tips and tricks and just kind of a general knowledge about what to do to enter a competition, how to elevate your competition brewing, and all that kind of fun stuff. But before we get into that, I want to thank our sponsor, 5 Star Chemicals. You can go to 5starchemicals.com right now and learn the 2 possibly greatest ways to elevate your home brewing, which is to clean and then sanitize. That's what you got to do. In that order, 5starchemicals.com. It'll help you out. It'll distill all that information down for you and explain the whys also. And then, of course, all of the products that they have to help facilitate cleanliness and sanitization.
Yeah, you won't get far without that in the competitive homebrewing world.
You're definitely not. Absolutely not. It's detrimental to you to not do one or the other or both. And I'm pretty sure that I've had beers that have lacked both of those and have brewed beers, I know for a fact, that have lacked both of those.
And all right, so funny story about that.
Andy, what's going on?
My former co-brewer and I entered a competition a couple years ago and had a bottling station set up, and we had our sanitizer in one keg to flush the line, make sure everything was good to go. Then you switch over and you bottle off your fresh keg and everything's great. So we're going through and we're getting our last entries in there, fill up the Saison, I think it was. We were really proud of it. Came out really nice, scored highly in a couple other competitions. We got the score sheets back and they gave us a 0. I was like, wait, hold on. I thought there's a gentleman's 13 or something that we had to get for this.
Right.
We sent them 3 bottles of Star San.
Oh my God.
So lesson learned,
Wow.
Don't drink while you're bottling.
I'm surprised they even gave you a score. I'm surprised they didn't just say like, not
This is not beer.
I thought you got a 1 for clarity.
You're right. We did get a 1 for, and yeah. They're like, well, it was filled correctly.
That's just
that's right.
sauciness right there.
That's going to be prickly mouthfeel right there. But
Yeah.
oh man, everybody has had a problem with sanitizer at some point where they've dumped it into their beer or something. That's a new one on me.
Yeah. That's
I've had the suck back thing happen before, where you have it blow off and it's like, oops, there goes some into my fermenter.
If I were judging that beer, I'd say this beer is very clean. It's very
Oh,
Wah wah.
They should be able to tell this just by the smell of it. Oh, that's Star San. I mean,
I'm sure they
You would
didn't
hope.
drink it. I mean, it's like a opaque liquid.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure no one drank it. I'm sure they're, whatever. But anyway, the voice you just heard is Andy, and the other one is Matthew, and they're from a Facebook group called Competitive Homebrewing. Welcome to the show, boys.
Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome. Andy, actually, do me a favor. Come up just a little bit more. I know we said that you were good, but yeah,
no problem.
it happens. Audio floats on this show. I don't know how it does it.
I got you.
All right. Thanks, man. All right. So Andy and Matthew. So tell me a little bit about the Facebook group, Competitive Homebrewing. How long has it been around? When, did you guys start the group? Those are 2 questions I have for you. Go.
Yeah, I think we started about 2018, 2019, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Just trying to look to build a community for competitive brewers to get together and discuss, tactics and competitions and that sort of thing. And it took off pretty slowly.
Sure.
But really has hit some momentum recently, with a lot of people finding it and sharing it with their friends, sharing it with their, other competitors. And I think we just hit, how many did we hit today, Andy?
We had 2 extra members join today that put us over 700.
Nice.
Well,
Yeah.
That's pretty
Right
good,
on.
man. Congratulations.
And I mean, if I'm honest, we kind of started this thing because Matt and I are crazy people, right? So we have a random idea about something and we get super obsessed about it, which I mean, most brewers can say that.
Yeah.
But we're really, really hyper competitive. And I was like, man, I don't want to bog down our homebrew club with all these conversations about competitions and just all they ever see on there. There's got to be more people out there that want to talk about competitions. And frankly, I want to find more to join. I like competitions that have really cool awards. I love going to ceremonies and being able to share with the people locally. So we started it and we're like, let's just see what happens. It's probably going to end up just the local Lone Star circuit here in Texas kind of people. And man, it was crazy. I don't know what really sparked it, but we started getting people from all over the country. And now it seems like every day there's 3 or 4 brand new competitions that we've never heard of that are getting posted out there, and a ton of traction. Like we were talking about, that people sharing tips, sharing competitions that they're entering, getting feedback on things, getting advice on where and how to enter things. It's a fun forum to have, and a unique one out in the homebrewing community, in my opinion.
Yeah. Is it a private group or is it public? Can anybody just go in and join, or do you need to like fill out a questionnaire and send in a bottle of beer to get the
It's private. We've learned through our club's Facebook page that it's a lot better to keep it private. I had some interesting characters try to join our Facebook page. So we have some questions on there, but it's an automatic, if you answer them, it automatically accepts you.
Okay. What are people doing like when it was public? Were they just making fun, or a lot of spam, a lot of like single women in your area need applications now?
Yes.
Discreet.
Lots of that.
Okay.
Tons of that. So
All right.
Yeah. We went through an audit of it a few years ago because Facebook has this thing where if you're over 500 members, you can't automatically invite everybody in your group. So when our club grew over 500, I was like, all right, I'll go and I'll clean up people that haven't been active in, call it 3 or 4 years. And man, there were a lot of single people from other countries that were for some reason in our homebrew club, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're not brewers.
I am Tatiana, and I am from Moscow, and I homebrew very much.
Exactly.
Let me send you my brochure about politics.
Much beer, good.
Yeah, it's weird like that. I mean, I'm not surprised it took, it sort of gained traction slowly. It's probably just because people are sharing it, and finally that algorithm picked up and decided to like send it to more people. But also during the pandemic, especially, which we're still in now, by the way, I just want to make that clear, that people have taken up homebrewing. I think it's gotten more people into the art and the science and the hobby of homebrewing. So you're probably getting a ton of people going, well, now I have all this beer.
And they don't know about all these cool competitions that there were in the past.
I think you're exactly right. People needed to spend their time doing stuff. I started a YouTube video series called Mean Brews during the pandemic.
Nice.
But now they have this beer and they want to do something with it. And this is another avenue for them to enjoy the hobby, get out there and compete and see how their stuff really is.
Yeah.
We get a lot of people that are like, I didn't even know that competing in beer was a thing. And they start getting really excited and start realizing there's this whole other angle, this whole other avenue to pursue within the hobby. So
you too can get mad at someone, at a judge miles away for filling out a form incorrectly.
I may or may not have several beers named after judges that I was upset about.
Absolutely. Hopefully one was named Brian Cooper.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Well, one should be at least named Brian. Yeah.
Another thing I see a lot, posts of in there too are pictures of the actual medals that people have taken home and some serious ribbons. And like as a occasional competition organizer, it makes me like, damn, I need to step up my game.
We totally wanted that. We wanted, competitions to covet us bringing our stellar entries into the competition and upping their game with better prizes and awards. And that was definitely a goal of ours with creating that. And it's working. We're seeing that. We're seeing people advertising, hey, look what you can get if you enter this. So, that brings my attention. When I see something cool on there and I want it, I'm going to go enter it.
So you're having competition organizers posting in the group, hey, these are the prizes for our competition in, fucking
Minnesota.
There's one in Tennessee that's offering $500 for first place. But you have to bring 10 gallons of beer there and serve it.
Dude.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, why not?
There have been some competitions over the years offering like huge prizes like that. There was some random fair in our area. Do you remember that one, Brian? One of the fairs. I think it was San Mateo.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, I'm pretty sure it was San Mateo when I used to live in San Mateo County, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, he got like 2 first places and something runner up as a show or something, and just got like $700 out of it or something crazy. Wow. Like, dude.
I wonder what the shelf life of competitions like that are, because that's not really sustainable. I mean, you have to,
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe
I don't know where that money was coming from, but it just seemed like a fluke, like just a typo. Somebody added an extra 0 and
or maybe it's like the barbecue circuit. That started out very amateur, and now you can win super prizes there. I liken what we do very similar to that. Just hasn't taken off like the barbecue has.
Yeah, that makes some sense. But it was kind of interesting to me hearing some of these things is kind of how, in some respects, homebrewing may have kind of gone full circle, where this stuff where people are brewing on their own and they don't know clubs. What are those competitions? I don't know about that. And they just they saw something in the newspaper. That's how old I am. They drove by a homebrew store. So, maybe I'll try to make beer. And then you ended up with, people starting to enter competitions who had no idea what a competition is, and competitions trying to attract people by having, good prizes and things. And then that wheel kind of turned, and people were more concerned about, well, can I do well at a big comp? And I don't really care about the prizes that much. I want to get that medal, no matter how it looks. And I don't know, in a way, it's kind of like there's maybe a whole slug of people from COVID who kind of came to homebrewing through non-traditional ways that we can't reach them in the AHA or Brewing Network or whatever, but maybe they're on Facebook, and those people are coming into the hobby in the same way that maybe some of us did in the 90s.
Yeah, I personally think homebrewing appeals to different people for different reasons, which is what makes the club scene so much fun, right? You'll get like Matt's an engineer by trade, so he automatically starts to geek out like hyper technical on the process of making beer and refining every detail about it and optimizing every single piece of it. You get other people that are they're expats, right? So they're here and they can't get the beer that they've always had back home, so they start to make that beer as part of a memory or to keep that thing alive in their mind. And then you'll get somebody who's just super artistic and wants to express it that way. It's really interesting to get those people in the same room and talking about beer and sharing their stuff, because like no one doesn't have a story when they pour a beer for you. So being able to share that with them is really, really awesome. And for me, I started out just like with a friend, learning about it because I was making wine at the time. And he had like the easiest sales pitch. He was like, so how long does it take for wine to be drinkable? Like, I don't know, 6 months or a year, maybe? And he was like, dude, from brew day to the day it's in your glass, we're talking like 10 days. And I was like, well, yeah, I need to be doing that.
Yeah.
And we walked into a competition one day, and it was the Blue Bonnet Brew Off in Dallas.
Oh,
and it's
a big one.
Yeah, it's massive, right? And it was my first competition that I ever walked into, and hundreds of people there, 1,500 entries, I think, that year. And I was like, okay, hold on. You can compete in making beer. This is nuts. And growing up hyper competitive and everything that I did, I missed that. I missed that element in my life of being able to like go toe to toe with somebody and the playful banter back and forth of, I can be better than you at this, I can prove it. And the competitive side of it was just really rewarding. And then the competition also serves the goal and the function of helping develop better brewers from all the good feedback that they should be getting from those competitions. So it's multifaceted in why people join the hobby. It's multifaceted in why they enter competitions. And we start to see, those things start to feed on each other, where people are starting to make the beer, they enter competitions, and their quality continually goes up and grows.
Just observationally, the quality of homebrew competition entries has greatly improved over the last, during the 14 years that I've been judging. It's just, it's gone really up. And so you can really tell, like, there's very few of the just super clueless, like, I just entered this beer to see what's wrong with it kind of people. And paying the $14 or whatever some of the competitions cost. And
people sitting in Star Sand, shit like
people
that.
are putting their best foot forward and really playing, the A game and going for those medals and stuff. And it's, as a judge, it's a pleasure to brew it. Although on the show, we also love talking to people who really are having struggles and learning how to do things. And we take a lot of that. Those are maybe some of the more fun ones for us to talk about, but we would really enjoy also tasting some of your beers just because they're probably pretty damn good.
But speaking of the competition getting more and more difficult, Andy talked about me being a statistical nerd. So I took all of our club's medaling scores for years progressively, and watched that S curve, how the higher the score, the more likely to medal. And that curve shifted 2 points in 1 year after we really started getting seriously competing. Wow. And then the next year, another point. So, something that would medal at a 38 at 50% chance, it would take a 41. the next year.
Because the quality of the beers have gotten that much better.
The competition, and we're trying to figure out why. And I think people are getting more educated because of shows like this, or these systems, these automated systems take out, the variables that you can go wrong, become less as you brew. But definitely, first Bluebonnet Stein I won was in 2008, and I moved to Europe for 5 years, came back and started brewing again. I brewed that beer about 10 times since then. I can't score over 33 with it. Exact same recipe, exact same process.
What is it?
It's Cali Common.
Okay.
Cali Common.
A decocted Cali Common, though.
It was a decocted. I can't believe you remember that.
Wow.
So it was my first Mean Brews beer I ever brewed, and I won a Bluebonnet Stein with it. First competition, I entered one entry into the biggest single site comp in the country, and I won a Stein with it. So,
well, congratulations.
What is that, fluke? Was it just that good? Was it a little bit of both? And why do you think you can't hit that mark again, or at least even close to it?
I'm brewing on a different system now.
Okay.
So that's one variable. I'm all about variables, right? Control of variables.
Right.
I think the competition's better. I think, putting that beer against others that are more refined and have more evolved to recent tastes, because tastes have evolved. If you watch my YouTube channel, you'll see everything is evolving with beer. And, the lupulin shift is real, and people's perception of hops is much less sensitive. So you're competing against a different beer than I brewed 10 years ago. It's in a different set of standards, regardless of what the BJCP is, right?
Yeah, I think the style itself hasn't descriptively changed that much, over the years.
Oh, definitely not. But it's their own perception of what is good in that style has.
Very kind of tightly around one beer.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the hard part when you enter beers, and then also as part of a judge, I think it's really hard to not allow at least some of what you enjoy leak through to the actual judging. It has to still, you have to still like it. I mean, it can be to style. It still has to be good on some level.
You guys are master judges, right? The overall impression is supposed to be how you liked it, right?
Correct. Yeah.
They are. The Bryans are. I'm a dipshit.
I'm just
sell yourself
certified.
short, JP. You're a master dipshit.
I'm a master dipshit, but I'm recognized, and I judged 2 competitions and said, this is too much work for my ass, dude. I don't want to do it.
So you're
honestly, that's a really good point, in my opinion. When we started really growing in our club, like 5 years ago, our club competition only ran like 35 entries. And this year we filled up a 600 entry competition in 2 hours. So like the growth has been radical. So we have the struggle of like, how do we get more judges? How do we fill seats? How do we get these entries, quality judge these entries and get people, to continue coming back to it. And one of the things that we kept finding was that bottleneck of, man, it takes me 10, 15 minutes to get through a score sheet. And then you get, a flight of 7, 8 beers, and that's a big time commitment.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of work to build our own digital score sheet during COVID so that we could actually tell people you can judge from home with a remote judging partner. Everything is typed so you can actually read it, and it's not just scribble on a piece of paper and you're like, I have no idea what that says. It's a prescription from my doctor, I guess.
Yeah.
That's my score sheet. Yeah.
I wasn't pointing fingers, but it really helped our judges to be more willing to take on more flights. This year was an interesting one for us. We had our judges fill out a form first and like, hey, I'm willing to judge X number of flights of beers. And we actually had to turn a couple judges away because we didn't have enough flights to give everybody. We had so many judges and they were all like, yeah, I'm willing to judge 7 flights. And the cool thing about the model of doing it all remote in the first round was like Matt and I can judge 1 flight tonight. Me and Jason can judge 1 flight tomorrow, and I don't have to leave my house. I can go tuck the kid in, and then I can come back and judge a flight of beer over Zoom, turn in my score sheets, and I'm done for the night. So the average person signed up for 7 flights, and we only had enough to give them 3. So the judging has not been the problem for us anymore, which is awesome.
What's your club? What's your club? You keep referencing your club. What
the King Island Nailers.
2017 Gambrinus Award winners.
Cool. And where are you guys? Where are you guys based at?
Katy, Texas.
Okay,
which is just west of Houston.
Near Houston.
I used to live down by Johnson Space Center for a year, like in the early '90s.
Yeah,
okay,
they were going to send him to orbit, but he was too
I was
Good.
space didn't want me. Yeah.
You were gonna send him back home, but
The monkey won that competition. I sent the monkey
awesome.
instead.
so when you're on the when you're in the group and people are talking, what are some of the things that the folks are sort of trading information back and forth? I know that's people have obviously written books and done whole podcast networks about this sort of thing, but like what are the common problems people are discussing on
And actual useful stuff you've gotten out of it, from people randomly coming in.
Yeah, so I'll go first, and Matt can think of something much better than mine. There's some process stuff, but I think in a competitive landscape like what that group really is, it's not a lot of beginner conversations that you're seeing. It's people that are established in what they do. They have their process down, and they're looking to either refine stuff, find other competitions to enter, or one of my favorite threads that was out there for a while was what categories can I cross enter to maximize the number of beers that I can get in and have a chance at medaling. So the conversation was going around like, can anybody actually tell the difference between a Scottish export and a Scottish heavy? And the whole group was like, nah, not really. So you can cross those.
Do it.
And like I ran an experiment this year based on some of the feedback I saw where like I brewed my alt beer, and my alt beer has always been very successful for me. Low to mid 40s in score, medals more often than it doesn't. I've been entering it as a British bitter in all three subcategories. And in the first competition of the year that I entered, it went first, second, and third and scored 44, 42, 40 as a British bitter. And I was like, well, I never saw that coming.
Wow.
But it was just
British. Wow. Okay.
just how you perceive the style based on the guidelines. They're remarkably similar. But the German side of me was like, this does not make any sense. There's no way that this should work the way it is. So it's the creative ways that people are looking at how to enter competitions. My big one when I first started competing was there were a lot of competitions that had to consolidate and shrink the number of categories because there weren't enough entries really to let the category stand on its own. And I always go to category 12, Pale Commonwealth as my example, but you'd get like 2 or 3 entries there, which means it would then get consolidated with like the British bitter category or some other thing. And I was like, no, screw that. I'm going to brew all 3 subcats. And now it has enough entries where they have to judge it on its own. And now there's more points and more medals being awarded at this competition. And especially when you think about like a circuit where every point matters for the end of the year total, things like that really start to add up. So the creativity in some of those conversations was a lot of fun for me to be a part of.
Yeah. How about you, Matt?
For me, I think it's, getting people's feedback on something you want to try, like cross-entering. Have you ever cross-entered a German Pilsner into a Czech Pils? It had been successful, and that type of stuff. Also, personally, there's some market intelligence type stuff too. For example, just found out Annie Johnson's going to enter her Czech Pils in NHC, and I'm like, I'm not going to enter mine now. There's no way I'm going to win.
God, this is like spring training shit where it's like, well, there's a rumor. It's like Moneyball. There's a rumor.
She posted, I'm going to enter it. I'm like, whoa, I was going to put mine in, but let me find another beer here now.
Yeah,
Right.
And he's kind of like Jamil used to be in that sense, right? Like, I'm not going to enter this. Jamil's going to win this category. And I was like, oh, Annie's going to win this. I'm not going to enter there.
No, but there is that. And so, to be honest, I like competing, so I'm going to put my Czech Pils in there because I want to beat her,
You definitely.
So, but that's a cool part of it. And watching, seeing these guys in that group that are, they're superstar brewers, you see what they win and you see that you're going to go up against them in a competition. That just feeds me. I'm a competitive guy. I want to win. I want to show. It just bugs me when I don't win, so that's a cool part of it, is that you get to compete against the best. And we now plan, through this to compete against each other across the US. So.
Well, and when you're probably spending $1,000 or more on just homebrew, entries every year, you got to maximize what you're using, what you're getting into, the bang for buck approach there too, probably.
All right. Note to self, make sure my wife doesn't listen to this. Yeah.
Yeah.
1,000 pesos, right?
Other people do this.
Exactly. Not me.
you.
Not me.
No.
I'm responsible.
Yes, absolutely. It's funny you talk about cross entering, because Jamil would always say when this topic would come up, either on the session or his shows or whatever, should you cross enter? And he would always, if I remember correctly, and if I'm not, then he didn't say it, but if I am, then he did. To never do that. If you want to get good at brewing a style, brew that style. Don't pretend it's another style, because judges will be able to tell.
I've seen two brewers take a English bitter and put it in alt beer and get gold medals with it.
See, and this is, I think, that evolution of beer, where back in like the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, that was more of a thing where you didn't have so many entries in a competition like that. Maybe you had like one or two alt beers. You know what I mean? And so you can kind of like tell the difference, maybe. But even at GABF level, you see this kind of thing happening all the time. You know, people win IPA for a pale ale or vice versa or whatever.
Nick Corona used to cross-enter an IPA into pale ale and double IPA. It was one of those that kind of met right in the middle.
Yeah.
And he would medal in all of them.
It sounds like a beer I would hate. Absolutely. Well, I think it was even a couple GBFs ago where someone would, like, they won for IPA and like the name clearly was like blah 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 pale ale. It was in the name. The name of the fucking beer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like we're sort of this nebulous sort of collection of styles that the guidelines, I don't know if they mean less now, or there's so many styles that they just sort of, it's like almost a Venn diagram.
I think it goes back to, if you know, in that example I gave with a bitter and an alt, it was probably an awesome beer, right?
Sure, yeah.
And you get swayed by that as a judge. I'm a judge, right? If I've got an awesome beer at the table, I'm going to give it more points, even if it's not 100% style, just because of how well it was crafted and how great of a beer it is. You know, I'll stay within the guidelines, but it's hard to ignore a great beer.
That's what I'm saying. And I think like you wouldn't be able to cross enter a mediocre alt beer. If it was sort of an alt beer, but not really, is this maybe a brown ale? I don't know. Maybe it's a thing. And I think that's the difference. And I think that's the point that you guys are making in the group, it sounds like. And then what we want to obviously hit too, that, you know, it needs to be the style. It can't be maybe the style.
Mm-hmm. But make excellent beer. I mean, if you just
make excellent beer, so like you can't cross enter a mediocre beer. If you go, I don't even know if this is an alt beer, then you're not going to enter it in. It's not going to do anything.
For right. Sure. I mean, back in the day, people would say like, "Oh, I made this pale ale, but it tastes it's not hoppy enough, and it's a little too dark." And I was like, "Well, enter it as an amber ale, but it's not a great amber ale either. So why would they even do that?" You know?
Yeah, and I think in an ideal world, Jamil's right. Like, if you should enter the right beer in the right style, and it should be judged that way. But unfortunately, the data doesn't show that that's 100% accurate. Like, you can consistently see that. And I lean back on the Scottish beers, the bitters, dark mild and British brown. I can show you years of score sheets from multiple cities and multiple states where those beers score right in line with each other in both subcategories very, very, very consistently. And they're good or great in both of those. A couple of years ago, I think it's 2017 or 2018, in our competition, I scored a 49 and a 47 with the same beer in two different subcategories.
Oh,
it's like,
wow, dude.
You can't tell me that the beer wasn't good or perceived. It was judged by a national judge. Yeah.
English brown?
That's pretty amazing,
dude. So you track all your score sheets. You have a spreadsheet, I guess, or how do you keep track of your information?
So thank you for the softball setup for Matt.
So we started when I started looking at circuits and investigating competitive brewing, I looked back like 10 years of people in the circuit. I'm like, who are these people? What happened to them? Why did they stop competing? And so I set up this program called Master Homebrew program, where you can earn these badges. It's a ranking system based upon how you've scored on multiple subcategories of beer. And for example, I'm Grandmaster 4. That means what? 20? I have 20 different subcategories of beer with score sheets over 43. So, and this is how we track. We now have 108 members in the program, and you can find it on Facebook too, Master Homebrew program. And there's a whole bunch of criteria there, but that's how we kind of track as a group. Really a subset of the competitive brewing group is this Master Homebrew program. It's free to join. If you want the badges, it's $20 a year. But this is how we're really tracking, and this is how we know who the really good brewers are out there that are competitive.
Yeah,
it's evident with the. Go ahead.
To also directly answer, I kept every score sheet. With the exception of one competition, which drives me nuts because I think it's the one that would actually cost me ranking up to the next level. But I had every score sheet from the time that I started. And when I submitted them all, Matt was like, good Lord, dude. But we track it. I have multiple spreadsheets from every year, and it's this competition had X number of entries. The category that it was entered in had this number in it, and I entered my beer that scored this way. So I can track geographically, hey, for some reason in Dallas, this beer scores better than it does in Houston. So watch that, be aware of it. If I'm having to narrow down what I can enter in one competition, what I can't, I'll factor in things like that.
There's a competitor in Houston. I'm not going to name his name, but he's well known. He's probably one of the greatest homebrewers in Texas ever. And he tracks judges, and he knows judges geographically and what their preferences are.
Oh,
and
that's a little scary.
He will
Wow.
brew. He is extremely successful, and he will brew to the judge's palate.
I'll brew a beer that Brian Shar likes.
I'm not
Not the
kidding.
best of show here.
If you look up
Yeah.
Lone Star Circuit and look at who's won it the most, you'll know
Wow.
who that person is.
I mean, the only way you can get, I would imagine, like really accurate data. I mean, I wonder if there's homebrewers out there sharing information on particular judges.
What does my rap sheet look like? Yeah.
I don't think I personally
haven't
haven't
seen
gotten
it.
to that level yet because
Yeah.
it's too random who you're going to get.
Yeah.
You know,
It is, and I
Um,
think
After the
any
fact,
any
like-
competitor also understands that it's a double-edged sword. Like we participate in judging as well, and we understand the variable and the variance of judging in a competition. So the last thing that you want to do is put a judge on blast, because you're just putting a target on yourself too. And
Right.
maybe somebody just had a bunk
Yeah.
bottle, maybe their palate was a little bit shot from being later on a flight. There's so many different things that can happen where your beer just scores worse in this one competition, or it's not perceived the same way.
I'll
Um,
also say, I track numbers. You're more likely to medal with a high 30s score than you are with a low 40s score. If you're in the low 40s, you've hit somebody's, I really like this beer, but you haven't hit the general population. So if you look at that curve, it has a peak at about 38. So if you've got a 38 beer in one competition, you keep entering that because you're right in the mid range of what people's palates really enjoy.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like I've entered this oatmeal stout I've been farting around with for years, and it gets like 42 is the top, like 35 to 42 maybe, and it's just never done anything ever in the second round of nationals, just never. And I'm like, well, sort of gave up.
Well, nationals is a crapshoot, anyways.
Well, yeah, but I guess like that's the only thing I thought about, because to be completely honest, I don't know about competitions going on. I wouldn't know about a competition in Tennessee or Maine or whatever.
There's a Facebook page for that,
I know, but like, when I was really doing it, I'm like, I don't know. And there's like bulletin boards. I guess I'm old enough to remember bulletin boards, like forum posts. I don't know. But now it's like, I didn't. But now it's easy if it's all in one place for me. The competitive homebrewing Facebook page.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
I
As
mean,
a
it's
judge,
been super interesting because we get all these people that are all over the place, and if you're a competition coordinator and organizing it or running a club, I'm specifically from a person running a club, right? A competition can be your entire budget for the year. Like that will fund everything else that your club does for the rest of the year. So it needs to be successful in order to let your club do a lot of the other social things that they want to do, or educational programs that you guys want to run. So them growing their competition gives them the ability to go and try and get new brewers. It gives them the ability to advertise. It gives them,
Yes.
fun stuff that they can do that they wouldn't have been able to do without a competition. So they get on our page and like, hey man, look at these cool medals that we got. Look at these cool trophies that we're doing for best of show. And I mean, they need to be careful what they wish for, because those competitors see it and they just bombard it. And we've had a couple clubs reach out and they're like, hey, we went from 80% of our, and my numbers are not completely accurate here, but 75% or 80% of our medals were given out to local people in years past. And the second that it got posted on y'all's page, only 30% are going to people within the city. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a risk that you run,
Yeah.
but you filled up your competition.
You fill your competition. I guess at that point you have to decide what you care about the most.
Yeah.
Local
Or you
people-
try and figure out how to scale.
Yeah, you could do that too. Yeah, or maybe have like a different award. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, I think it was a big concern that people are starting to look at. The last several years, competitions as a whole, at least in Texas, were really starting to suffer, and they were struggling to even maintain the numbers that they were historically. You'd see, competitions that were always 600, 800, 900 entries that now were like begging people to enter to get to 400 and 500. And even then, the judging was hard to get there.
Yeah, it was hard. It's been hard to get judges, and there were a lot more novice judges coming in for some, I don't know why, but it just, there were so many competitions that, exploded over the time. And then I think homebrewing maybe declined a little bit in popularity the few years before the pandemic. It's since come up, and who knows what it's going to do next. But yeah, the judges were hard to get, and I've heard stories are all around from organizers like that. Had to enlist a little bit, lower quality judges, and the entrants aren't happy, and the scoring isn't right, and
I'm offended by that.
It's terrible.
There's a recent competition in Georgia where they weren't expecting the influx of meads and ciders that our group brought to that competition.
Okay.
And they've been struggling to judge the numbers. And, when you look at the winners in that, they've already done the beers and they've announced the beers. It's people in our group, it's like 90% of it's in our group. And that's kind of what Andy's alluding to. And I was talking with another guy that's in our group, and I'm like, well, there's two ways they can take it. They can make it local, or they can get better, and if this drives someone to get better, if there's people out there like us that are pissed because they didn't win a medal in their local competition, they're going to get better. And that, to me, that's great. If you become a better brewer because of it, that's what our goal is, really.
Yeah. I mean, it is sort of like, maybe sometimes, depending on the competition, it's like the major league team coming down to the minors for a second.
Yeah, that's true.
So I could see why people would be a little pissed, but at the same time, it's through no fault of anybody's. That's just the way it is. I know that some regional competitions, the brewers there want to stay regional so they can win medals because they're the best brewer in the region or whatever.
But yeah, I mean, the same thing happened with
then people are then they're going to be up against better brewers. And you're right. They should take that into account and go, oh, okay, I do need to get better. I'm not, hot shit. It's like the Harlem Globetrotters play the Washington Generals or whatever the fuck.
But traditionally they've opened up to, national entries just to get the counts that they need to fund their club.
And like you guys are saying, you're going to get that level. Once you open it up, you hit your numbers, but you're going to get people who are better brewers than you regionally. And I think 9 times out of 10, most homebrewers are going to be like, oh, okay, I just got washed out. That's fine, because I just need to get better. And that's great. So you guys basically brought the barrel, and everyone else is supplying the fish for you guys, right? It sounds like it. You're just looking for comps. I'm teasing for the
Well, it's just a different kind of group, like the Brewing Network is a different kind of group, and they came in. You share a lot of knowledge on your show. So the people that listen to it were learning how to brew better beer, and then they came in and started winning medals at NHC, and everybody got pissed off. But it's just.
I'll say this. I mean, if there are people out there that are not winning these and want to get better, join this group, because I'm an open book. I have I share every detail about every recipe that I have. And, I will give you whatever you need to make you successful. So, this is not a secretive homebrewing group of competitors. We want to make each other better. So there's no real secrets here between any of us.
That's what I like about the hobby in general. And doing this show for people, same thing kind of.
I mean, we love to win, but we don't want to screw the little guy. We want you to come up with us,
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's the way it should be. Well, Andy and Matt, thanks a lot for joining us. You guys can join the Facebook group. It's called the Competitive Homebrewing. It's obviously on Facebook, and it sounds like you get to answer 1 or 2 questions or whatever, and you'll get jumped right in, as they say, as the kids say these days.
Get them up to 1,000 here in another month or so.
Is that what the kids say, JP?
That's what the kids say. You get jumped into the Facebook group.
Yeah.
And that's, who knows, maybe you'll meet your next significant other in the spam. You don't know the way Facebook works. No, but anyway, check it out if you guys are even slightly interested in entering competitions. It sounds like a really great group of people, very open and sharing and wanting you to succeed. And that's really what we're trying to do here in homebrewing in general. We don't ever want anybody to get shitteth upon and keep making subpar beer. We want everybody to be making great beer. And, the more groups you can join to do that, you should really do it. So the Competitive Homebrewing Group, Facebook. Yes, Brian Cooper, go ahead, please.
I know Harold was sipping on something really nice too, and made a little visit to a regional brewery out here. I just wanted to give him a chance to mention that. Sorry, Harold, I keep seeing his name on the screen.
Matthew.
Yeah. Matthew brought something tasty back from California, I
Talk
guess.
about softballs.
Let's see, can you even see it?
You got to hold it in front of your face. There you go.
It's Worry by Heretic.
From Heretic.
That's such a great beer.
buddy of mine, Travis Comble's good friends with Jamil, and kind of by network, I've got to know Jamil a little bit, and we were on vacation in that area, so I hit up the brewery, met the crew down there. Travis told me to buy this one, and I just loved it. And we were going to talk about, I don't know if you want me to talk about where I would enter it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is a Belgian triple aged in Chardonnay barrels, and I've had this before, but I'm gonna have it again now just so I can share it.
You say alt beer, I'm gonna hang up on you.
No, it's a triple. It's a triple. It might be an alt or English bitter. I don't know.
Yeah, with Jamil, you never know.
Yeah. Sorry?
I said with Jamil, you never know.
Yeah. So this one's kind of unique. So it has that Chardonnay character right up front, but you still get the triple. And I wanted to share this beer because if you're deciding where to enter it, there's a couple places you could put it. Probably what hits my mind is the 33B specialty wood, which, right off the bat, that's where I'd probably put it. But you could also say, and I don't know if you see the 2021 BJCP, and they've added this grape ale category. And if you didn't really read the guidelines, you might think it's not Italian grape ale, it's grape ale. You might think, hey, this tastes like Chardonnay, let's put it in there. And it does. However, it's a triple base. And if you read the guidelines, there's a specific, and I highlighted this before we started, it says, oh crap, let me back up, that it can't have any bubble gum or, where is it? Banana, bubble gum, and the like are considered false. So the base beer for this style has to be very clean. So if you didn't read those guidelines and understand, hey, you as master judges are going to read that, and you're going to say, there is a clove, bubble gum, and banana in this, and that's not the style. And you're going to ding it. So the point I was going to try to make with this was it's fantastic beer. Actually, it's a wonderful beer. Make sure you read the guidelines when you enter and know where you should put it in a competition. And join a homebrew club and they'll help you. I've had many people help me, and I've helped many people decide where to put their beers, and they've won medals, and I've won medals because of it. Yeah. A different set of taste buds always helps.
Send those beers to us. We've done that for plenty of people as well.
We could do it. Andy and I'll send some beers to you.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Anybody who needs help, entering where do I enter this beer or whatever, we've done that for several people. So here's another thing, just real quick, and then I'll let you guys go. You were talking about knowing the region, maybe knowing the judges, maybe that's a little bit weird. What would a region score this worry better? Would there be a better region or a better competition to enter this beer than, say, another competition somewhere else in the nation? I know it's
there are some competitions that kind of favor the exotic, especially in Texas. I've noticed that the Dixie Cup here in Houston, if you've got an interesting beer, you're more likely to medal. Definitely Inquisition, which is run by the Austin Zealots.
Okay.
The more interesting your beer, but if you're looking for a classical style, some of the bigger comps will be very strict to, more on point to style. Blue Bonnet being one of them.
Right. So those creative, artistic brewers wouldn't want to enter that when they then enter these other competitions. You'd enter your alt/bitter.
Yeah. I think the bigger competitions that have been around for a really, really long time, it's much more important to be very good at a very specific style. Okay. You can't really get around with or get away with cross entering in a big prestigious competition. Like, I'm not going to cross enter something in NHC. I'm not going to cross enter something at Blue Bonnet because it's just not going to hold up. But regional ones, smaller competitions, where the pool that you're competing against is different, then you stand a better chance of it. And that kind of goes to Jamil's argument about just brew the best version of that subcategory, that specific beer.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. All right, cool. Andy, Matt, we'll let you go. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, this was fun.
Thanks for having us, guys.
We'll see you guys at HomebrewCon, hopefully.
I'll be there.
We're planning on it.
Okay. All right, everybody, hang on real fast. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we have a special beer tasting segment lined up. And you won't want to miss this. It's Dr. Homebrew. Don't go anywhere. All right, thanks for sticking around, everybody. On today's show, the second seggy we have is another non-alcoholic beer talk, because number one, I like them. And number two, this is a new one that I didn't even really know about until last weekend. Guinness is one of my favorite breweries. That stout is just awesome, and every beer drinker has had their moment in the sun with Guinness, I'm sure. But Guinness has a non-alcoholic beer out, a non-alcoholic version of their draft can. It is sub 0.5%, and I think it's great. I was very apprehensive when I first found out about this beer, and I am excited that I actually really liked it.
Cool.
I liked the beer a lot. So we all got some, and I have some regular Guinness to compare it with. And I have a triangle test. So I want to see if I can pick it out, because Guinness is one of these beers where, like, if it's damaged really in any way, it just tastes like a penny. It just doesn't taste good. It's not good.
Have you been licking a lot of pennies, JP?
I used to, as a kid. Sure.
Just chew them up, see how soft they are, like how much zinc is in them or something. Yeah.
Why not? But it's just that metallic, that just nasty flavor. Like, funky Guinness is never good. It's never good.
No, dark malt. I love dark beers and a lot of the darker malts, but they can oxidize in really funky ways and age in really funky ways sometimes. I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah. So I got 3, the old triangle test here. First of all, let me turn this candle out. Damn. Okay.
Can't really tell.
If you're not paying attention, you're going to grab this and you're going to think it's real. Well, here, that's there we go.
Well, maybe that's why they make the can with the blue bands on it for the
sure.
non-alcoholic one.
Yeah,
it's
100%.
mostly black, but blue bands on the top and bottom with a big zero.
But, like, you know what I mean? If you're not paying attention, you go, okay, whatever. Because these big brands, they throw a little zhuzh into their labels from time to time. You know what I mean? But, like, I have no idea what this is. They look exactly the same. I mean, maybe these are the same beer. I have no idea.
Well, it's a triangle. So, yeah, 2 of the 3 are going to be the same, right?
But all 3 of these look identical. They smell identical. I mean, these are the same beers. And you would never know it. And what we got to do, I want to do a segment on how to do non-alcoholic beers. I mean, I think White Labs has an enzyme to help with that. I'd love to try to get Chris White on.
I definitely get kind of a difference between the alcoholic and non-alcoholic, but it's not a bad difference, right? I mean, there's enough varieties of Guinness already. There's the Guinness Draft, there's Guinness Extra Stout, there's the, Cooper was talking about this earlier. There's a lot of Guinnesses out on the shelf that have some subtle differences from one another, and to me, it's not outside the normal variance between the different alcoholic Guinness styles.
See, this is what I was thinking is I had one at my father-in-law's house, and I'm drinking it like out of a glass, and I'm like, it sort of just tastes like heat damaged Guinness, It's just a little bit. It's not really that creaminess was sort of there, but not really, and it was sort of not. I don't know. It was off a little bit, but you could easily chalk that up to this is a damaged beer. So, if you had 2 Guinness, normal Guinness, and then you grab a non-alcoholic, you would never know it. You'd never know it. So
I think, to me, I mean, do you want me to talk a little bit about what I perceive as the differences? I perceive the normal Guinness as being slightly more roasty and slightly more creamy, but I perceive the non-alcoholic one to not have any flaws, right? This is not something that I perceive as watery, but it's maybe not quite as creamy and maybe not quite as roasty.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just smelling them so far. It smells like the real Guinness to me. It smells like it's going to be a little sweeter beer when you taste it. Although I don't know, you can perceive sweetness in your nose. It's
Sure,
something you
man.
perceive
Why
on your
not?
tongue, but you get hints of things that tell you this is going to be something sweet.
I think ethanol is one of those things, right? Because
The
ethanol,
yeah,
it does give a perceived sweetness, I think, even at a lower concentration.
I tend to agree with you, Shar. What you're saying about not watery, but just not as roasty, not as creamy. I think that hit. But as I'm drinking these 3, I thought I knew which one was the non-alcoholic from my first impressions. But I think as all the flavors sort of blend in together in my palate, I'm changing my mind. And I don't know if that's because of the beer itself or because of just my palate is now like they're so close together that all the flavors in my palate help wash everything together. Like they're this. It's not like with Heineken. The Heineken 00, you can tell, but you're okay with it. You know, it's like it's not beer. It's not a beer. It's not a Heineken, but it's good enough. It's like cubic zirconia, right? Or cubic
zirconium is okay for most purposes, but
it's okay. It does the job. It's shiny and whatever. And like, the interesting thing is, I don't know if this is a glass variant, but like this sample number 3, the head sort of died down, but 1 and 2 are creamy as hell.
Oh, do you know which one you have 2 of or not?
Not yet, but Taryn texted me, so I haven't looked at it. But I thought this one would have been the non-alcoholic. So the one I thought was alcoholic has lost its head. So I don't know anymore. I guess is really the point.
Yeah, I mean the flavors on this one, like you were saying about the Heineken, JP. The Heineken 00 was okay, I thought, but it didn't really impress me. This is one where there's a difference, and to me, it's perceptible, but it's not enough of a difference where if I was somewhere and like, I don't want to have a beer because I need to drive or I just don't want to have more, but I wanted to just have something that tasted good, I would drink this Guinness 0 and be probably pretty happy with my choice.
Well, we're definitely talking about a beer that is a lot more flavorful just on its own than Heineken.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that
and
helps.
To me, maybe that's why to me this is more, palatable is the wrong word, but maybe not. Why it's maybe something that to me would be a good substitute because there's just more flavor to it in general.
Yeah, and like Heineken, it's not an alcohol monster. It's a 4% beer. So
here's the difference. So I've picked in my mind what the different one is, and that's the number 1. It's the middle one because it isn't as creamy. There is a lack of creaminess. There's almost a sharpness to it. There's almost it. The Heineken 0 or 00, I guess, has a I don't know, a tin or not a metallic necessarily, like a weird brightness that this has also. And so I'm like if you put Heineken 00 in a glass of Guinness, this is what I would imagine it would taste like. It's like that. That's how reminiscent it is. That's the recall that I have of it. So that's why I'm picking it. There's a roast level to it, but it is very subdued. It's more like a brown malt than a roasted malt.
And I wonder if they had to back that off to make it taste right without the alcohol there. I think they might have to. Yeah.
But it doesn't finish creamy. It finishes almost acidic. Not acidic, but I guess acidic. Yeah.
I think you need to look and see which is which now.
All right.
I'm wondering if these are from the Baltimore location.
They are not. They are from Ireland. Yeah, brewed in Dublin. Even the 00, or even the 0. All right, let's look. Let's see which one. It is. Did she not do it yet? Oh my God! I'm gonna find out before I kill.
Okay.
So Cooper, should you and I just talk among ourselves here?
Yeah, I think that. So I'm looking at the head on the Guinness, and the head is falling flat faster on the real Guinness. The creamy head of the 00 is just standing up like fluffy, mousse. It's just insane.
I totally agree. And just looking for, I guess I have my virtual background on now, but this is like, yeah, I definitely have probably twice as thick of a head on the 0 than on the regular traditional Guinness.
Mm-hmm.
It is number 1. I was right.
All right.
So the one is the Guinness or the 0?
0.
Okay.
And there was only one of them. Okay.
And there's only one of them.
And the head was falling flat faster on the other one because that's what we observed too.
Yeah. On the 3.
On the real. Yeah.
On the real. Yeah. So it's just a glass variant. But yeah, the one is it's a little tartar. Just a little. There's a little acidity. There's a little tartness to it. But again, but like that was sort of the point of my build-up, is if you fuck with Guinness enough, it can have that flavor, just even in the normal ones. So you wouldn't really know. You sort of chalk it up to like, oh, okay, whatever. I don't know. I thought it was really interesting, and I'm very happy to have these side by side.
This is a really, really good NA. I will not name the brewery, but there's another NA stout out there that tastes like unfermented wort mixed with water, and it's just too much roast.
It's like all of them.
You know what I'm talking about, but it's it's terrible. This tastes like an actual beer. This is amazing, and I'm sure their quality people spent a long time developing this. Their brewers.
Oh yeah, clearly they did.
Here's the key: drink it out of the can.
Mm-hmm.
Like I drink it out of the can, I don't get those tart flavors, or those identifiers that I do in the glass.
Yeah, it does taste different when you drink it.
It tastes different. It just and I get some roastiness in my mouth. I wonder if the creaminess will be there. Yeah, I mean the creaminess is lacking a little bit. The real Guinness out of a can, it's a little more robust, but I don't know. Like I've said now 3 times, you would not be able to tell, especially if you've had one. You can drink this and be fine.
I think that can is the Guinness Extra though, right? So that's the 6%.
No.
Okay, you got regular Guinness Draft. Okay, got it.
I got regular Guinness Draft too.
Okay, good. I got the bottle Guinness Draft stout. It's with the widget in the bottle, but yeah. There's so many, like you said, there's so many different versions. You have to be careful what you're picking if you're going to do a
for sure
apples to apples comparison. So,
all right, well, that was our Guinness head to head, so to speak. I wanted to talk about it. I thought it was a good idea. It's a great beer, and if you're into the non-alcoholic scene, like we apparently are, I can't speak for Shar, but I know Cooper and I definitely like it. And I don't know.
I like it. I like it too. I think it's good.
There you go. We're the NA crew now, boys.
NA crew, yeah.
And it's also fun to do 50-50 blends. I just blended them 50-50 here.
It wouldn't be a Dr. Homebrew if you didn't blend some beers, Brian.
True, yeah. I do really enjoy blending non-alcoholic beer with my regular beer. Whenever I want to drink something carbonated, something with a little bit of zhuzh into it. Mm-hmm. I don't want to drink 6% beer or whatever. I'll just blend whatever athletic beer I have with whatever normal beer I have, and
I think a brewery would be wise to, like, if you got a brewery that was as good at doing their NAs as this, or as good at brewing low alcohol beers as this, they would do well to just cater to people that want to keep their edge and just have beers that are all 2-3%, maybe 1%. Not you're never going to get drunk drinking them, even if you if you really pounded them. But they probably have. Yeah,
I mean, I know the hard part is it's the same reason people don't buy ESBs or bitters or whatever. It's because they're 3.2 and people go, oh, what's the point or whatever. Even people I tell, like I told Warren that, it's like, dude, you got to check these beers. Like, what's the point? I don't know, asshole. Just cause it's the point of you.
Do you remember when Tasty would talk on the session about, like, when he would go out golfing, he'd make his like IPA, and then he'd also get he'd also carbonate just regular water, and he'd like mix them 1-to-1. So essentially he'd go out with like a 3% beer, like a little keg he'd take with him, like to go out golfing with friends. And I thought that was an amazing idea, right? You just take pure water, carbonate it, and then just dilute down something that's really flavorful and good.
Well, I mean, Jamil does that with his shallow grave.
Watery grave.
Right. You take a shallow grave, robust porter, and you cut it with carbonated water. And it's great mild. And you can do stuff like that. Anyway, so blending beers is not that bad. I know it pisses a lot of people off, but who cares? Anyway, a quick break, everybody. We'll come right back. We're going to wrap things up here on Dr. Homebrew. Hang on. All right. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. We're about to get out of here. I want to thank the boys from Competitive Homebrewing. It's the Facebook on the group on Facebook.
Appreciate some cool stories there. Just the cross entering, some of the behind the scenes stuff. It's fun to talk about that with people that just really obsess about winning medals and doing well in competitions. I think
it sounded crazy.
We can pick their brains for hours and maybe learn how to do better in competitions ourselves here. But No, they got something going on. The statistics part of it was interesting to me. Just like they do all these data spreads and like, get all analytical about it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would just want to like give them my sheet. Here, I don't know. You tell me. I don't want to. I'm not the type of person to go back and look at how many entries there were and put it in my sheet and like make sense of the data. That's not me.
Yeah. Well, you just message them and they'll tell you where to enter your beer in the country and
should be
what
this
to do.
Service. Yeah,
what category.
Yeah. Give me a fraction of Bitcoin and I'll tell you.
And now I know if some guy's out of my backyard looking in my sliding glass door, I'll just ask him, hey, are you from Competitive Homebrewing? Just seeing what I like to drink. And if he says yes, I know that's cool. There's not a problem.
They're just spying on you. Yeah.
Yeah. Just please watch my azaleas. Anyway, if you guys are looking to get your beer on this show, yes, we actually do drink homebrew on this show. Email Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com. And we are ready. We're ready and willing to take your entries in anything you make at home. Kombucha, spaghetti sauce, I don't care.
Salami?
Yeah. But salami, why not?
Cured meats, yeah.
Soy sauce, you ferment soy sauce. Kimchi, why not? I don't care. We'll do whatever.
Vegemite, yeah.
But more importantly, beer, ciders,
mead,
mead, wine, anything like that. We'll check it out.
Sake.
Sure. Why not? You brew sake. Fuck it. Who cares? All right, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And until next time, we'll see you later.